Welcome guys to One Shot Movies. In today's video, we're not just watching horror, we're unlocking the gates of hell and walking through them with our own hands. What's coming isn't just a list of films, it's a descent into the deepest corners of human nightmares, into worlds where blades don't just cut flesh, they strip away the soul. I've prepared for you the most brutal, blood-soaked 7 slasher films ever made. Films that never feared gore, never tried to dress up death. They shoved the truth in our faces, raw, ruthless, and bleeding. Each film is a prison, a cell of images, sounds, and memories you won't always escape from. And every body dragged into the shadows makes you feel like you're not just a viewer, but someone standing there, watching a final breath as your own heart is placed on the line. Turn off the lights, lock every door behind you, sit alone, and take a deep breath. Because what's coming is not for the faint of heart. This is the countdown to the bloodiest moments, the most twisted stories, and the kind of films that when they end, don't leave you. They mark you. So don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell, because every video we drop isn't just telling you a horror story. It's sending you back alive, carrying a scar that'll never heal. In the barren lands of Texas, where corpses are tossed away like worn-out boots and monsters are stitched from human flesh, horror was born in the shape of a child named Jed. But no one saw a boy, only a monster delivered from the womb of madness. Leatherface wasn't a story of murder, it was a story of creation. How does the system build a monster? By stripping him of his name, his childhood, his voice, locking him away in an asylum, and waiting for what comes out. Escape wasn't freedom, it was the beginning of the test. By the side of the road, heads flew, guts spilled, and the only thing that resembled love was a blade. Leatherface didn't choose to kill. He was pushed to become what everyone feared. And the mask? It wasn't to hide his face, but to protect what little humanity was left inside. Leatherface, not just a prequel to a blood-soaked legacy, but an autopsy of a boy stripped of everything except rage. In the end, no one is born a monster, but some are raised to become one. And that is the scariest truth of all. Deep in the forest, where no police ever reach, and screams vanish into the trees, a new generation of nightmares is born. After the first massacre, some thought the terror was over, but the butchers return with darker faces and hearts that stopped beating long ago. In this second chapter, there's no light at the end of the road, no hope waving from afar. Every step brings you closer to the end, a slow-cooked end, simmering in pain. Raghorn isn't a name, it's a call, a roar from a beast that hangs bodies like trophies and carves agony into flesh like memories etched on bone. No rules, no salvation, just a family that worships slaughter and makes you wish for death 1,000 times before they carve you apart while you're still awake. The victims, a group of teenagers, was lost in a land that was never theirs. They thought nature was innocent, but they were just ticking time bombs of death, hunted in the wild, strung up like meat, until finally, they become part of the farm. In this chapter of the massacre, blood isn't spilled, it's extracted slowly. Heads aren't chopped, they're hollowed out from the inside, and the body is just meat, waiting for its turn. In the end, you won't ask who survived. You'll ask, who was left with enough of themselves to be buried? Deep beneath the earth, beneath layers of stone and suffocating darkness, begins a journey not measured in miles, but in how much of the soul is lost along the way. 6 women, each carrying a hidden fracture within, fleeing from the world above, only to find themselves trapped in a world below where mercy does not exist. What started as an adventure slowly twists into a ritual of reckoning, but forgiveness was never part of the plan. Sarah, a grieving mother and widow in the ruins of her sanity, didn't enter the cave for a thrill. She came seeking an escape from pain. But pain was already waiting for her inside, with a disfigured face and a sound that spoke only one thing: death. Inside the cavern, rules collapse, friendship shatters at the edge of madness, and everything human erodes under pressure. The creatures? Blind monstrosities, but none more savage than a human forced to survive. The descent is not just a clash between humans and beasts, it's a confrontation with the self, with guilt, with grief, with the fear that maybe there's nothing left inside worth saving. In this stone-built hell, silence screams louder than any cry, and the dark tells more truth than light ever could. Choices become blades, cutting through what remains of compassion, and blood is not just an outcome, but a language, one that writes the final chapters for those who never made peace with their past. And just when you think it's over, you realize the true cave was never the one you crawled through, but the one you've carried inside all along. This film is a descent, not into a cavern, but into the parts of ourselves we fear the most. The true survivors aren't those who made it out breathing, but those who carried madness without falling into it. The cave was never just a labyrinth of stone, but a mirror, reflecting the real monster inside each of them. The terror wasn't hiding in the shadows. It was born in the choices made when fear became God. And in the moment you believe salvation is near, you learn that survival itself is just another form of torment. Because the worst nightmares are the ones you wake up from, only to realize you never left.
The Descent.
In a distant mansion, at an opulent table, meals are served and souls are slaughtered in silence. Jeffrey, an ambitious playwright, came to sell his script. But tonight's story isn't written in ink. It drips with betrayal's blood. The dinner guests? An elite circle of intellectuals, artists, and critics. But behind the masks and polished conversations lurks an insatiable hunger. A hunger for chaos and for man as the main course. At this dinner, the laughter is fake. The glances poisoned, and everyone in the room knows the end is near, and there's no way out. The dinner party isn't just a cultural evening, but a dark, elitist ritual where power is exercised as torture and the victim is served on a platter of weakness. Haley, the silent wife, was nothing more than a shadow of a man chasing fame. But shadows, once severed from their hosts, become something else entirely. One night is all it takes to realize monsters don't live in the woods. They wear tailored suits and sip wine before the slaughter. The Dinner Party 2020, a banquet of madness where the mind becomes the blade and art a veiled method of killing in the name of taste, and dinner just a farewell meal to humanity. In the end, no one truly wins. The table is stained with blood, and the corpses remain, silent witnesses to an unforgivable crime. The real question is, did anyone deserve to survive, or was everyone doomed to fall into an endless abyss? On Halloween night, when faces are removed and masks are worn, innocence becomes a trap and curiosity a death sentence. 6 friends thought they were chasing thrill and fun, but what they stepped into was a void disguised as entertainment. The haunted house? It only borrows the name. It's not a scary attraction, but an existential trial where survival means nothing and screaming serves no purpose. Here, props aren't for show, they're for dissection, and violence isn't a game, it's a belief. Each room strips away a layer of safety. Each door that locks behind you feels like you're being buried alive, one step at a time. The victims aren't counted in numbers, but in how much of themselves they lost before being pulled to the end. Haunt 2019 isn't just a horror film. It's a question echoing into the void. If a person screams in the dark and no one hears them, did they ever exist? In this place, death doesn't come as an ending, but as a release from an unbearable absurdity. And in the end, only echoes remain. and a single question haunts the walls. Were they victims or simply passing souls, lost between pain and nothingness? On a cold night, in the heart of London's chaos, Kate was simply looking for a train, a ride from one party to the next. But the train she boarded wasn't on any schedule, and leaving it was never part of the route. Beneath the city, where rust eats the walls and silence reeks of death, Kate finds herself trapped in an abandoned station, a place forgotten by time and deliberately left behind. But she's not alone. Something moves in the shadows, breathing remnants of the past, crawling out from the womb of human neglect, a deformed creature named Craig, the product of filthy experiments and a history buried alive beneath the streets. Not a monster by legend, but a man, abandoned long enough to become one. This movie is a survival story, but not from a supernatural force, rather from the city's own ugly underbelly, a place that builds over its hell and ignores its screams. Kate, an ordinary woman, transforms from victim to fighter, from witness to participant. Her journey through the tunnel isn't just an escape, it's a slow unraveling of her trust in anything human. Down there, logic dissolves, and the only law is the will to outlast the scream. Creep, 2004, a tale of a woman swallowed by the city, haunted by a creature who doesn't want to kill as much as he wants to be seen, even if through the skin of others. And in the end, the light doesn't promise salvation. It only reminds us, whoever escapes this hell never comes out whole. In a secluded country house, on an evening meant to be a celebration, chaos slips in, uninvited. What begins as a peaceful night turns into a sealed-off slaughterhouse. 8 women gathered under one roof for reunion and remembrance. But within the walls of that house, someone was already planning to turn serenity into camouflage for the hunt. Tess, a former soldier, returned with her body intact, but her soul riddled with holes only war could carve. She didn't come to fight. She came to escape her past. But the past doesn't forgive, and the danger tonight will force her to choose: become the beast war made her, or be buried among the bodies. These killers aren't after money. They crave a sick meaning of power, the thrill of bloodshed, the pleasure of testing the human soul once safety is stripped away. Fear the Night isn't about survival, but about the moment of collapse, when instinct mutates into vengeance. The house becomes a prison, and friends, a burden, or corpses waiting their turn. On this night, walls don't protect, trust ends in betrayal, and every step toward escape demands you shed everything that makes you human. Fear the Night isn't just resistance against evil, but resistance against breaking, because the scariest part isn't death, it's what we're forced to become to stay alive. And in the end, the blood dries, the night fades, but the scar runs deeper than any wound. And that was our list of the 7 most brutal slasher films ever made. If you're still breathing after all that, congratulations. You officially earned the right to walk alone in the dark. No flashlight needed. If you liked the video, go ahead and hit that like button. And don't forget to subscribe, because you know, the killer usually starts with the ones who don't subscribe. Thanks for sticking around till the end. And if you hear a strange sound after this video ends, don't worry, it's not coming from your room. It's just us, love keeping a close eye on our audience.